Kenni Rae. I'm so happy to be in the building today. And we're going to bring in another episode in our relationship series, another relationship cornerstone, if you will, that I'm really excited about. I feel like this particular episode is extremely timely. It's funny because sometimes I feel like, I like to be very prepared. So I like to get ahead of myself, especially if I have like some good ideas turning, and I will just go ahead and say, okay, this is going to be this episode, this is going to be that episode, this is going to be that episode. Basically coming up with the topics in advance, and then I'll go back in and work on the show notes or whatever. And so I don't even remember how long ago that it was that I decided that I wanted to do a episode on understanding. Cue Understanding by Escape. I'm not about to sing for y'all. If I can do an insert, I will, but trust me, I don't know if we're there yet. But I wanted to do an episode on understanding, and I feel like this particular topic is so timely. I feel like everybody's belief systems are totally, different, and I value and I honor what everybody believes. But if you follow along with any sort of astrology, or just at least believe that it exists and it's real, and that even whether you're Christian or whether you're Buddhist, you're Muslim, to know that these things are real and that we can be impacted by them. But the disclaimer, right, if you are a Christian, is that we are protected by the Holy Spirit, and so we're covered, and we can use things like prayer in the Bible to keep us wrapped in the spiritual armor of Jesus, which is a totally different topic, which reminds me, I would love to get into some of that stuff with you guys later on, just talking about going more in depth about my spiritual beliefs and my faith, and just the reality of the spiritual world and spiritual attacks and things like that. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. Don't forget, as always, to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you are following us on our Instagram page, which is at Carved Wellness on IG. At Carved Wellness. You need to be making sure you're sending me DMs. You need to be making sure that you are liking the episodes and sharing them with your friends, especially, you never know if it could be an episode or just a soundbite or a clip or something like that really blesses someone else. You don't know what they're going through. Maybe they don't feel like they can talk to you about it, but I really do believe in the fact that nothing happens for a reason. So when I'm sharing these episodes, again, whether it resonates with you specifically or not, there's always a possibility that someone else can use it. And yeah, so don't be that thing that stands in the way of somebody else getting their blessing, their breakthrough, their moment, their encouragement. So I absolutely wanted to give a little bit of additional plugs for some things that are coming up. I'm not ready to announce any guest hosts soon just yet. I thought we were going to have a guest host coming up, but that doesn't look like it's going to work out with the schedule as of right now. So the guest hosts for the upcoming episodes are still tentative. So yes, it's just me and y'all. We're going to keep this thing going, keep it rolling. But we do have some more incredible things in store. One of which I am still extremely excited about. Next week, we're going to be doing our show live on the Podbean platform, which is the hoster website for the podcast. That's our distribution hoster. So if you have Podbean, please make sure to go and head on over. We're actually going to go live Sunday at 6 p.m. A fun fact is my birthday is actually next week. It is May 23rd on Tuesday. And so I will have some things going on that Monday, and I will not be dropping an episode, editing, doing any of that stuff on on Monday like I would normally do. So just to give myself a little break, but also you know, to make sure that you guys still have a little bit of something fun. Like, just switch it up for that week to give you guys something fun in honor of my birthday. So you can look forward to that. Like I said, make sure you're following us on Instagram, because that is where all the updates come out for everything that's going on with the podcast. And that is how you can get the link for our live episode, as well as literally anything else that you need regarding content to stay motivated throughout the week, or any little updates going on with the episodes, or if it's going to be late or if it's going to be early or anything like that. So make sure you're following us. Okay, I think that's enough housekeeping for now. I hope you guys have been having an incredible week. My week has been so entertaining for so many different reasons. And, one of which I will just go ahead and share that I, recently got out of, or ended, or in a relationship that I was in, recently ended. And it's been really hard. It's been something that it's been difficult to process. It's been difficult to understand. It's been difficult to wrap my head around and just come to terms with, my new normal. When you get so used to someone being part of your life and you begin to see a future with them. I know that I didn't really talk openly too much about my relationship on here, but I did, drop a couple little things in a couple of my episodes, of course, about being really excited and happy and thankful and grateful, for the partner that I had. And I still feel that way, so none of that stuff is canceled out, guys. Just, bear with me. And so, yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why I feel like it's extremely timely right now that we are in this relationship series. And I do hope to be able to open up even more and share with you guys some things as we go deeper into some of the more like specific things, like when we actually talk about romantic partnerships and relationships. But I do think that this episode about understanding is going to be a really good one to kind of, even just for me, right, to allow me to sift through some of the missed opportunities on both my end or his end, to kind of be able to understand each other. Because I think it's so hard. You are constantly trying to make sure your needs are met and make sure you're good. And this is not just in romantic relationships. This is in a lot of different aspects. But we're constantly just trying to make sure that everything is a right fit for us, that everything is good for where we're at and what we need. And we rarely sit down to truly look at the other person and understand who they are, where they are, what their needs are. And I think that sometimes those missed opportunities are they reveal themselves later down the road, and like red flags that you weren't paying attention to, and then here you are, like braced with this like thing that you shouldn't be shocked by, but you are. Or it comes in the form of the other person having resentment towards you because you aren't seeing them and their needs aren't being met, and now they're trying to find it within themselves to express that to you, and it's all coming as a shock. Like, there's so many things that I feel happen as a result of us just being so tunnel visioned about ourselves at times when we enter into relationships, and just living in the moment, which is a good thing to do. Like, relationships are supposed to be serious, but you are supposed to live in the moment to some extent. Like, enjoy, be happy, and just trust your heart and follow your heart to the best of your ability. But especially as we grow older, I believe that we do need to be walking into these relationships with some clarity, with some focus, with some intentionality, and of course enjoying the moment, but just knowing that we don't have any more time to waste. Like, we don't really have time to waste on relationships that are not going to be fruitful and valuable for us in the long run. So, yeah, that's my little update on, what's going on with me personally. So if I seem a little down, I'm not down because of the relationship. It's just that there is a lot going on, with the dissolution of everything. And so I'm like, as focused as I am on the podcast, I'm also thinking about like a bunch of other stuff too. And so I definitely prayed and asked God to help me focus, asked Him to, speak through me and just help me today, because I know that I'm going to need it. And I know that you guys have probably been there before. So please don't make me feel like I'm crazy. Like, breakups suck. And if you're going through one, hit me up. Tell me what you recommend. Give me some good songs, playlist ideas. Give me some love and encouragement, because I could totally use that. Okay, so this episode on understanding, as you know, we're doing relationship cornerstones, and we talked last week about what exactly a relationship cornerstone is for the purpose of this series. And it is something that will help you to build upon. So it is a foundation, it is a base, it is the thing that is a necessity in order for you to build anything on the top. So it's foundational. It is the thing that's holding everything else in place. So you will take these cornerstones in to any relationship. So last week we talked about generosity. That was episode 13. So go and listen to that. This week we are talking about understanding. And it is, like I said, the thing that holds everything together. It is a foundational piece. It is something that you will absolutely take with you into every single relationship, whether that is a romantic relationship, family, kids, eventual, just all the relationships types that there are out there, friends, business. These are things that are really important. And so even if we do not talk about every single format, and it is easier because the most common relationships that we struggle the most with, or that I feel like we put so much emphasis on, are romantic relationships. And now sometimes we're putting emphasis on friendships, and family and all of that. Those are some of the easier ones to talk about. But any relationship that you identify that exists within yourself, business relationships, actual job relationship, working relationships, all of these cornerstones, I promise you, are applicable in some way, shape, or form. So you just have to figure out how to kind of tweak some of the facts and scenarios for it to work for your situation. But we're going to try to keep it broad and a little general. I believe for these cornerstones, selflessness is going to be the running theme that bonds all of these together. We're really looking for people who can openly and genuinely offer up certain categories of selflessness, generosity, like I said last week, and now we're talking about understanding. And so, I mean, it really does go without saying that you should want to understand the people that you are in close relationship with. It really goes without saying. But to be very clear, as I said at the beginning of this episode, a lot of us really struggle with that because we are so hyper focused on our needs, making sure this is a good fit for us, making sure this is what is going to be right for where we're at in life. The social media is trending left and right with that type of energy. It's like, if this isn't a fit for me, then I don't want it. If I don't want to do it, if I'm not feeling it, then I'm not going to do it. And so we're constantly putting out this energy of like, me. What do I need? What do I need? What do I need? What do I need? And that is not a problem to the degree that you do need to be very self-aware. You do need to have a certain level of consciousness about where you're at, who you are, and what you want and what you can't accept. But it also has to be reasonable, you guys, okay? And because all of these things usually we're talking about regard other people and end up, other people are involved too, and it usually is that relationship. It's a two-way street. it has to be reasonable within respect and regard to what the other person needs as well. So you can't just, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, you ain't gonna have a job. I don't want to. Okay, well, you're not gonna have a man. And so on and so forth for friends and family. So you have to always be thinking about the other side as well and what they need. This is like, I'm actually feeling myself getting into the conversation of like negotiation, and when you are negotiating for a business deal, and that's actually one of the first things that they tell you to do, which is very interesting because a lot of times when you're in a negotiation, or the thought would be that if I'm negotiating, like, what I want matters. What I want is what we need to focus on, and let's just make sure that we get them to get as close to what I want as possible. And that's not how they teach you to negotiate. You're supposed to come in with a certain level of preparedness and understanding the other side. You need to research, their company. You need to research their recent deals, their recent financial highs and lows, etc., and understand where they're at, and also try to get some sense of what they want. And so then you go with that, and then you try to come together and align where you're at, with what it is that you want with where they're at. So you're trying to find as many things as common as possible, and then in the things that are left over that aren't in common and where you can't find common ground, you say, are these deal breakers? Are these things that I cannot live without? Are these aspects of my interests are that I cannot be reasonable on? Like, that's actually how you're supposed to do business. So imagine, I understand that relationships and business are not the exact same, but those common core principles of negotiation actually come and are derived from like scientific understanding of human interaction. And that is just how we as humans are enter into a relationship, and that has been a proven way that we successfully navigate relationships. And negotiation and business deals are all about relationship making. So I know that was a lot for some of you who are like, I don't regularly interact in that space. I have no idea what you're talking about. But if that's something that's new to you, hopefully that helped you to understand a little bit better. But if not, just know that you do have to want to understand the other side. You can't just go around in life saying, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, because very soon you'll have nothing and no one. Life is all about relationships, and you don't want to be isolated, alone with nothing. You do have to come to a space where you come outside of yourself, and that is why we are talking about it today, because I think that's what we need to be doing right now in terms of, getting ourselves ready for those healthy, strong, long-lasting relationships, is really finding the balance between the two, like striking that balance between, hey, this is what I can't deal with, but this is also me understanding where you are, what you need, and who you are. And based upon that, this is how I think we need to, come together or not come together. And when I say not come together, I really mean that as well, because sometimes you do need to just understand that you don't understand. And that is okay too. It is okay that when you are trying to enter into a relationship with someone and be supportive and be respectful and be, making yourself available and open your mind to things, that sometimes you're just missing each other. Like, I'm here, you're here, and we're just not seeing eye to eye. Like, we just can't get there. And sometimes that's okay, especially when one person is putting in more energy than the other to meet in the middle. If you don't have the energy to meet the other person in the middle and they're putting in all the energy, whatever it is, sometimes, especially when it's not met with that mutual effort, you just have to understand that you don't understand, and that is okay. So as you guys know, lately I've been all about the articles. I feel like wellness articles, psychology journals, and things like that are so helpful and so important. This one isn't going to be very long because it's actually just a individual. Her name is Dr. Sherry Jacobs, sharing with us 10 ways to make it easier to understand people. And she goes on to explain later in the article that sometimes your difficulty in relating to others can often be, just a product of your upbringing and your lack of seeing people in your life relate to others. And maybe you were raised with parents who were kind of isolated and didn't really take the time to make friends, particularly substantive friendships. I know that was the case for me. I was always the outspoken, like I have a million friends around me little kid. But my mom, she just was not that kind of person. And so it kind of tapered off right after a while. Like I was able to do the surface because that was my personality. Like I love talking, I love meeting people, I love making new friends. But then after that, I just don't really know how to be a friend. I don't know how to navigate the relationship space because I never watched my mother do that with anyone. And then it also talks about that there may also be some underlying mental health issues that are related to difficulty in understanding people as well, such as codependency and bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. There are so many things. Do not attempt to self-diagnose yourself, but do realize that sometimes it may come from a deeper place than you think. And that's why whenever we're having these kinds of conversations, there's only so much you can do for yourself through these podcast episodes. They are here to relate to you, to love on you, to help you, to guide you. But at the same time, there's a certain level of mental health that has to be addressed clinically and through therapy and, just a licensed professional that can really support you through everything you're trying to navigate. Obviously, you don't have to do any of that alone because we are here. And, I'm going to do more to try to get resources connected through our social media and our other links that we have so that you guys can, start to explore that journey for yourselves. If that is something that you would like to do, because I've been to therapy. Honestly, I'm like, wait a minute, when's the last time I've been to therapy? I probably need to sign. It's about that time. It's about that time for me to go ahead and get back into it because it is so helpful. And it really helps to declutter the mind and bring back a sense of focus and clarity. At least I think so, depending on who your therapist is. So anyway, Dr. Sherry Jacobson's article, it's the 10 ways that make it easier to understanding people. So she says that you have to understand that when you're trying to understand, oh Lord, you guys, it is going to take time and energy. I don't know why anybody would think it would just come naturally and easy to understand someone else. But I do think we think that. I mean, I do think that sometimes I'm like, if I don't click with you, then this ain't it. But the reality is we have to adjust our expectations, is what she's saying. That it's going to take time and energy, but we need to know that. We need to come in with that expectation and don't come in with this reality that like, oh my God, it's just going to be perfect and we're just going to fall into each other's arms and we're going to ride off into the sunset and great. That's usually how it never happens, ever, never. And even if it starts off like that, somewhere down the road, there are going to be some misunderstandings that arise, and you're going to have to take time and energy to work through them. And so whether it's the beginning, the middle, the end, it's going to take time and effort in any relationship. That's, with work, bosses, supervisors, as well as, mom's, dad's, sister, uncle, cousin. So the next thing that Dr. Jacobson says is that This is going to require us to drop our assumptions. And dropping the assumptions is really just that you can't go into it thinking you already know who they are, especially if you're someone like, let's say, for example, you're big on like zodiac, right? You're like, oh, that's a Pisces, I already know. You're coming in with preconceived notions about who they are. Or if you say, this person is from New York City, like, New York City people are my favorite people. So like this is gonna be lit. Like you even good assumptions aren't good assumptions, because assumptions are just bad. They're stereotypes and ways that we bring comfort to ourselves through familiarity or just whatever we think we know about something. And we have to find a little bit of humility within ourselves to say, first off, I literally don't know everything. And second off, everybody is new. Like everybody has lived a different life experience. We're all so unique. The fabric of life is so fragile and unique and vulnerable to like all the different things that we encounter on a daily basis, and no one person has lived the same life. So that means that every single person on this earth is unique and different. And so there's no, like, yes, knowledge helps us to have some sort of background information backdrop kind of baseline for finding things in common, but we have to be approaching it from that space of understanding, asking questions instead of saying like, oh, I bet you like, I don't know, what do people in New York City like? You can tell that I don't go to New York City like that. But you just have to go into it with this mindset of knowing that this is a blank canvas. This person is brand new, and this is an amazing opportunity for us to fill in the picture together. The third thing is to be fully present, right? Which a lot of people are like, what does that even mean? Fully present. I am a present. No, 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 no. Like you need to be fully in the moment with whoever it is that you're engaging with so that you can receive whatever it is that they're sharing with you when you do begin to try to engage in understanding that person. So, I mean, it assumes that you're going to be having a conversation, but this could also be in researching a job opportunity. You need to be locked in, right? When you're doing research, writing notes down and going over those notes again and making sure that you understand the information. Don't just, be doing a bunch of stuff just because you feel like this is what you need to do. Like, no, like take the time to be present, to ask yourself some questions like, I wonder about this. I wonder about this. I wonder, be in that moment, be engaged and focus in on, that real, I guess the emotion, the feelings, the sensory experience of interacting with that thing, that person, that subject matter. That is absolutely necessary in order to understand. And a lot of times that's hard for us because of social media, because of television, because we're not confronting our own issues. And so we are so used to distracting ourselves away with, literally anything we can think of, whether that be TV, apps on the phone. Like earlier today, if I'm being transparent, like I downloaded an app on my phone and then I deleted it, and then I downloaded another app on my phone, like a game. And I don't even play games on my phone like that. But I just found myself needing like to distract myself away from, everything that I'm trying to navigate right now. And so I know I have like a million things to do, but just needing that distraction. And it was really difficult to find the mental capacity to be present. So sometimes it will be tough, but you do have to kind of check yourself on that and get yourself together so that you can bring that present attention to the moment. So the fourth thing she says is that you have to be aware of the power of perspective, right? So perspective is really important when it comes to understanding people, because sometimes you will have to anticipate, or at least fill in the blanks, right, about the ways a person is. And this isn't an assumption, right? But it is a way to form like a baseline understanding potentially about why they are the way they are, or why they think the way they think. Now, again, even if you're doing that, the only way it becomes fact or becomes true is when you ask that person and get that information, or they show you, you know, the behavior that matches the thing. So just be really careful with that, because that's a really fine line, right? In terms of trying to like understand someone's perspective and then making an assumption about something, especially when they didn't tell you what it was. So just, it's a fine line. So tread lightly, but also understand that everybody's perspective is going to be different, and perspective is literally formed by the whole host of unique life experiences, thoughts, belief systems, and things that we accumulate up until the present point in our lives. And it causes us to view the world the way we do. It causes us to think the way we do, say things the way we do, not say things the way that we do, not do certain things, do certain things. Perspective is all about the way that I see the world. And the way that I see the world is going to be very different from somebody else who grew up on the West Coast in a atheist family, and who dropped out of a high school and, you know, is now trading Bitcoin online. Like that perspective more than likely is very different. And honestly, sometimes you'll be surprised how much you do still have in common with people who have backgrounds that are just so different from yours. But the thing is, you know, when that happens, that is usually the outlier situation. And what you have to understand and appreciate is that the people that you grew up with, even though, yes, they still have very different life experiences, those people have the closest life experience to yours. And so sometimes the reason why you feel like you're so right is because you're surrounding yourself in an echo chamber, because everybody thinks the same way or very similarly. And so when you go outside of that, you believe that everybody else must be wrong because I have a majority of people here that are backing me up and telling me that I'm right. And the reality is, it's sometimes, not always, because you are just surrounding yourself with either yes men, people who are afraid of you and who just want to tell you what you want to hear because they're afraid of you, or people who are just like you. And so you need to find people who truly love you and who are going to tell you the truth, and B, get out of your own environment, move to another city, move to another state, move to another space, diversify your world experience, and get around some people with a different understanding of life than you. And then you will start to understand, you know, how to navigate different perspectives a little bit better. Number 5 is reading body language. Body language is difficult to read sometimes because everybody does express themselves differently, just like we express ourselves differently through our voices, in the way we speak and how we say things and what we do. But body language is also very telling. So usually if you're very closed off, you will have a crossed body language. So you might be emotionally closed off or feeling uncomfortable around a certain group of people, and so you have your arms folded, your arms crossed, or your legs crossed, or your legs folded, or, you know, you're just kind of in a space where you're protecting, you know, your energy, or you're holding energy in physically because you're not comfortable. When you're in your most comfortable space and environment, you tend to be more open. Your arms are not crossed, your legs are not crossed. Even if you're, you know, we have on a skirt, of course, and you're a woman, you're going to have your legs closed, but you're not going to have your, legs crossed around the other, wrapped around the other. You're not going to be fiddling with your fingers. Usually fiddling with things is a sign of anxiety. Twisting your hair or constantly brushing your hair behind your ears is a sign of anxiety. Twiddling your feet and things like that. So, and also body language, if you're paying very close attention, you're usually making eye contact. You're not gazing off, looking at other things. You're not yawning. You're not, you're usually giving some sort of head nod or other gestures to let the person know that you're engaged. So body language is definitely something that is important to be aware of and to pick up on. And sometimes if you're noticing body language that you don't quite get or you don't understand, or you want to make sure that the person is focused in and present and here with you in the moment in the conversation, it's okay to ask. It's okay to say, hey, I just noticed you were, you were looking around. Everything okay? I think sometimes you have to do that. You have to do it in a nice way. Don't say you're not paying attention to me, because again, you don't actually know why the person is doing that. So don't assume. But when the body language is giving you signs that are not in agreement with whatever's going on in the present, you can ask. You can say, hey, is everything okay? You've got your arms folded there. I just wanted to check in. And sometimes they may, oh, I didn't even notice. No, girl, everything's good. So just be aware of that. Body language is absolutely important. Make sure that you yourself are listening fully. This is number 6, and completely instead of halfway. A lot of times we do tend to halfway listen. We listen to respond and not to receive. And you absolutely do need to listen with a heart of understanding, and that you care about what the other person is saying and that what they're saying is meaningful to you. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, like I'll be in a Zoom meeting for work and like, oh my God, and look, we've all been there. So let's not even sit up here and act like, that's going to change tomorrow or that it even needs to change. I mean, sometimes you're just not in a space where you want to understand and you just don't care and you're ready for your lunch break. But the reality is, especially if you're in a sticky place with work and work is really, kind of not making a whole lot of sense to you, you do need to get more engaged, listen fully, participate fully, and do your best to show up to those conversations with a clear head and a focused mind. So number 7 is to practice reflecting back. Now, this one is extremely hard. This is definitely like a psychology tip, because I feel like this just is it's so disingenuous with what happens in real life and with what happens in real conversations. We don't ever see any, reflections of this on television or even in reality TV shows. We just do not see this. And it makes it hard because it just feels so unnatural to reflect back. And reflecting back in the psychology world is just a recommendation that a lot of therapists, counselors will give to couples, anybody, friends, whoever, that are struggling with communication issues. And it is a way for you to force yourself to listen fully, as well as to make genuine attempts to understand what the other person is saying. So an example is if I said, to you, hi, my name is Kenni Rae, and I am the owner and main primary caster of the Crafted and Carved podcast. And I asked, and then your job was to reflect back to me what I just said. Then, I mean, if you're being annoying, you would just parrot me and repeat exactly what I just said. But what you're supposed to do is say, what I heard you say is that your name is Kenni Rae, that you have a podcast, and that you're the primary individual on the podcast. And I understand that this is something that you are doing currently in your life, or whatever. I don't know. I didn't really say a whole lot. I was like, wait, did I go into more detail? I did not. But if it's a longer conversation or a longer statement, I feel like you guys can kind of see how that's supposed to operate. Like, you're supposed to make sure that you are truly, listening fully. And a lot of times the reflecting back is done with a therapist, with guided help, with someone who can help you guys navigate the speaking and reflecting back, because it can get really weird, especially like one-on-one. And sometimes, especially if you're emotional and like in a mood, you can sometimes do it in a sassy way that is like not helping at all. So I absolutely agree with it because it is an important tool, but just know that that's the context that it comes from. And so if you feel like this is not something that fits for you, it's not just you and you're not crazy. But if it is something that you want to implement and it works and it helps, then that's amazing. Number 8 is to ask really good questions. Make sure that you are staying engaged. That's another way, right, to stay engaged is to push yourself to ask questions. I know I do that, especially if I feel like I'm beginning to like trail off and focusing. Then I'll be like, okay, so what would I want to ask, when they're done? What's something, and it also helps me to listen to understand instead of listening to respond. But you also have to be careful with that too, because you don't want to just be like drilling a person, especially if you're angry with them or upset or frustrated. You don't want to just be trying to like ask questions in a way that is not kind, and to kind of like drill their argument apart or try to like tear apart their logic. Like, you don't want to do that. You just want to ask questions to make sure that you're understanding. Ask really good questions. Ask questions that are efficient, that are substantive, and help truly bring about that understanding that you're searching for. Number 9 is to watch out for projection. This is hard, but a lot of times we do tend to project our own experiences, feelings, thoughts onto other people. We tend to say, you must be this because I saw this in my life in the past. And that is an assumption, but it's so much deeper than that, right? It's because we have unhealed things, experiences, and interactions with things and people from the past that make us jump into that space with the other person. And we have to be careful about that. We have to be careful about putting words into their mouths and making them people who they are not, simply because we may have met someone who was not so great or had interactions that weren't so great with people in the past. So just be aware of any unhealed things on the inside of you with respect to like relationships and interactions. Go back and listen to our entire foundational series. We've got a lot of really good episodes that are confronting that. I think one of the really good ones is Cycles of Hurt. I can't remember what episode that is. It might be episode 4, but Cycles of Hurt is a really good episode to kind of get you thinking about any hurt that you might still be, that might still be lingering and cause you to project. So number 10, last but not least, you guys, is to learn to understand yourself. This probably should have been number 1. Okay. This probably should have been number 1. And I almost feel like I want to go backwards and add another episode to the foundational series, because the entire series is absolutely about ensuring that you understand where you are, understand that these are all of the things that make me and where I'm at in this space currently today. And so, this is, why I need to be, getting into this relationship instead of this one or whatever. So I think understanding yourself is so underrated. It is so underrated. And I think it is, like I was sharing at the beginning of this episode, it is coming back into trend, which I've been very happy to see, that people are taking the time to stand up for themselves and to think and reflect. I see a lot of women doing it. I wish more men would do it too. But yeah, we're taking that time to think and reflect and be intentional about what we want, but also just where we're at, and bringing awareness to the space of where we are in the present, in the current moment. Like, this is me, this is where I am, and that is okay. And I feel like the more you understand that, the better you can navigate understanding others. And I believe that that was Dr. Jacobson's point as well. So that is all 10 of the 10 ways to make it easier for you to understand people, which honestly takes up the majority of the episode. And I think that's how I intended it to be. So I hope that that was really helpful for you guys. I definitely have some other things that I want to share. As you know, I always love to dive into the Bible a bit. And so I do have a few verses for you guys. A couple of things that I definitely just want to share on my heart, which is that yes, like we do need to be making these strides to bring understanding to the space rather than judgment, rather than chaos, rather than turmoil, rather than arguing. But at the same time, we have to know that God is the source of our understanding. And so if we seek God first, if we're constantly turning to Him to look for understanding how to love others, how to show up for others, and He will give that to us. He will bring comfort. He will bring hope to that space. He will bring so many good things to help us to get it together in terms of understanding our brothers and sisters in Christ, understanding those who are not fellow believers, and we absolutely need that. So the big thing here is just to trust God and know that He's here for us to help us navigate not just this, literally everything, obviously, but also when it's hard to understand. So when it's hard to understand, don't beat yourself up. Don't get frustrated. Don't burn down somebody's house. Like, I hope that's not what you're about to do. But definitely don't burn down somebody's house. Definitely just go to God and talk to Him and try to understand what you don't understand. So the first verse is Psalm 119, 66 through 68. And it says, teach me knowledge and good judgment, for I trust your commands. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word. You are good, and what you do is good. Teach me your decrees. And this is a very straightforward verse. I don't really have a lot in terms of breaking it down. It's if you know anything about Psalm, particularly Psalm 119, it's David, I believe, reaching out to the Lord and just asking Him for help with navigating life. And so the entire book of Psalms is about, the human need, calling out to the Lord, asking for help. God, help me with this. There's also some, love songs like God, I love you, and God, you're so amazing. But just like, God, I'm trying to navigate life. Life is hard and I really need you to help me with this. And so here is, David asking God to help him to have the knowledge and the judgment, and just to know that God is good, and He will help you to have the judgment, the discernment, and the knowledge that you need to understand. And then if you grew up Christian, if you did not, you probably heard this verse a million times, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. You probably know it by heart before I even say it. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. And what's interesting is I kind of want to stay here for a moment. And so if I don't get to the other verses, just y'all bear with me. This verse came up in my spirit last week, as you know, during my breakup. And I just want to make sure that I take a second to really, because like I said, if you grew up in the church, you heard this verse a million times. And so it may be watered down for you. It may be like, oh, okay, yeah, trust in the Lord with all our heart, lean not to our own understanding. But the reality is, this verse is so real. It is so real. Sometimes we think that we understand things because we've lived life and we've experienced life and we have gained knowledge. We've educated ourselves. We've watched the YouTube videos. We've read the books, and we are now at a space where we can operate on our own in a healthy, strong, amazing way. And these podcast episodes are put in place to help you to have that confidence that you can do that, right? And it's really important that you do have that confidence to do that. But the reality at the end of the day, is that if you do not operate under Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where you trust in the Lord first with all of your heart, if you are not operating in a space where you say to yourself, even though I know I'm smart, even though I know I'm strong, even though I know that I am spiritually intelligent, if I am not trusting in the Lord to give me the guidance, to give me the wisdom, to give me the understanding, to give me the knowledge, to give me the ideas, then I don't really know what I think I know. Sometimes we think that we understand everything, and we just don't. Sometimes we think that this job is going to be the perfect job for us to walk into, but we didn't consult God and we didn't spend time in prayer about that opportunity, and we just saw the salary and the work-life balance and thought, perfect, this is, of course God wants this for me. And who's to say that that's not the case, right? Only time will tell. But the reality is, if we skip that step of consulting God, then we can't really be upset. We only really have ourselves to blame when things do not go how we thought they were going to go. Because our human understanding is so fickle and it's so finite, whereas God's is everlasting, it's infinite, it's incredible. So I just wanted to take a second to really just, make sure I emphasize that the Lord is the one that's going to direct our paths. He's the one that's going to ultimately help us discern the right friendships, the right romantic partners, the right job relationships, business deals, all of that. And so we have to find a way to incorporate God. If you're not a Christian, I urge you to send me a DM, reach out to someone that you know who is connected to a church if that is something that you would like to explore, because I don't want to encourage you to attempt to do this life without having Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, as a spiritual guide to help you navigate these things, because we go there first and then we implement all of the other things that we're talking about in this podcast, but we absolutely have to go there first. And so because I went on a little spiel, I guess I will just do this next verse, which is James 1:19 through 20. And I think this verse is really important as well. Says, "Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." See, now this verse is interesting because it doesn't really talk anything. It doesn't say the word understanding, right? But what I glean from this is that we have to be quick to hear. And it means that we need to be quick to listen and hear, right? So it actually doesn't say listen, it says hear, right? So you are listening, but you're also hearing. You need to be quick to hear what the other person is saying. You need to be quick to making sure that that is your intention, that your antennas go up so that you can really hear what the other person is saying. You need to be slow to speak. So it's really telling us all the stuff that Dr. Sherry Jacobson just told us, which is don't just listen to respond. You need to be fully listening. You need to be slow to respond. And you also need to be slow to anger. So if something that is said or done sparks an anger in you, and you need to, think about why that is. Why is your natural gut reaction anger? Are you dealing with something that's unhealed? Like, let's address that. Let's talk through it. Doesn't mean it's wrong or invalid to feel anger. Anger is a human expression of feelings, thoughts, frustration that is perfectly valid. But the Bible is asking us to make sure that we are slow to anger. So everything doesn't deserve our anger. I read a Facebook post that said that the other day, is that your anger is sacred and you can't jump to anger as your default emotion on every single thing. It's a perfectly fine emotion to have, but you need to guard it and you need to be careful with it. There's a time and place for anger. And the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. So anyway, just be careful about that, and knowing that, with that verse, God's intention for us is to attempt to understand, is to understand ourselves and to understand the other person so that we can slow ourselves from getting angry. Last but not least is James 1. I believe it's 16 and 17. I wrote 26, so it might be 1, 26 and 27. So forgive me, you guys, because I wrote it down incorrectly. So if anyone has the right verse, you can drop it down in the comments. But it reads, if anyone among you thinks that he is religious while discarding his neighbor's welfare, sees him having trouble or needing clothing or food, and refuses to help him, how can your religion be called pure? This is a hard one. This is a hard one right here, because it actually goes back to last week's topic on generosity. And it's really saying that in addition to being generosity is tied to understanding, which it doesn't shock us, right? Because we talked about the cornerstone being the things that hold everything together. So they're actually all interconnected. And so essentially we have to come from a place where we are attempting to understand the people who we are in relationship with, and that needs to be our heart's intention. And we need to be able to be moved by the different things that we see. We need to be able to be moved to help others and to love others and understand others and care about their welfare and what they're dealing with and understanding what they're going through. So anyway, those are my verses for today. I hope that you guys thoroughly enjoyed that. Before I close out the episode, I did want to share with you guys some things that I hope will potentially help you resonate. This is like my own personal thing, my own personal story about like who I am and how I've had a hard time, with understanding and relating to other people, So I have been in the past quick to label others. I've been quick to push people away after maybe one thing that rubbed me the wrong way. And I know that this isn't totally wrong, right? Because I've had previous circumstances that put me on guard for certain types of behavioral patterns. Like if I see that you are a liar, or if I see that you, say that you're going to do something, but you don't do it, I get triggered by that and I want nothing to do with you. And I understand that what I'm about to also say is that I'm not telling anybody to accept a liar, and I'm not telling anybody to accept someone who doesn't commit to their word. But what I'm trying to say is that I struggled with just writing people off because of that. And I think that I learned over these last couple of years that everyone has a reason why and everybody has a story for why. And what I more so needed to be focusing on is how to establish healthy boundaries with those people, and navigating that space and standing up for myself in those spaces instead of just running away and kind of discarding even a phone call with them because I just was like, no, absolutely not. And remind you, we are not exclusively talking about romantic relationships. We're talking about all different types of relationships. Some of these were friends, some of these were romantic relationships, but just know that you will navigate it differently. I understand that I will navigate it differently based on the type of relationship that it is. But yeah, I tend to skip over the understanding mechanism when it comes to other people. I am very gracious to my romantic partners in particular, and I find it so easy to give them a lot of understanding. I'll make excuses for their behaviors. Oh my goodness, I will run the gamut in giving them understanding, but not so much with potential friends and friendships. And not even family or employers. Like I am so hard on friends and family, and maybe not so much employers, because you need the money, right? So I guess maybe employers can kind of fall back into the same bucket as romantic relationships. But I will be so gracious to them, so understanding, so, oh, let me try to see from their perspective and and I will not extend that same grace and that same devotion to understanding as I will for my romantic partners. So I just never really asked that question of, why am I here? And why is my contribution needed in this space? Or in this particular person's life? And I'm really just beginning to get there. Like, I'm really just beginning to start to ask that and to start to find ways that I can be a really good friend and just more loving and more focused on things outside of myself when it comes to my friendships. And I think the problem with that is that when I am working or when I am in a romantic relationship, it is so easy for me to put my everything into those two spaces that then my friends get crumbs, my family gets crumbs. And I really need to, as we talked earlier, to strike that balance so that I am pulling what everyone needs from me in putting it in front of me and kind of reconciling that with what I have to offer, what I can give you right now in this moment, and what I know these people can give to me too, because we talk a lot about the wellness well, and friends and family and relationships and everything are a part of that. Like, these are two-way street relationships, and so you're supposed to be pouring something back into me as well, and I'm supposed to be pouring things into you, but I'm never really empty because it is a full cycle of replenishing things. Even if, my relationship takes 80% of me, but my friendships are the things that fill me with 80, and my relationship only fills me up with 20, which is very problematic if you're in a romantic relationship like that. But if your romantic relationship is only pouring into you like 40% or whatever, but your friends are giving you 60%, then you'll be fine, right? But you have to make sure there's that balance. And I definitely struggled with that. I'm definitely getting to a space where I'm starting to really see that. I have seen it play out time and time again, in terms of me not having that and not understanding that. And I'm having to learn those really tough lessons. And but they're good lessons. They're lessons that I definitely needed, and lessons that I'm very glad that I learned, because I wouldn't be able to share with you guys and I wouldn't be able to grow from it. So I definitely think that I am a natural interviewer of life, and I want to continue to, feel like I can get people to open up to me, but I also need to be able to open up to them as well. Like, whenever I feel comfortable, right? But I need to be looking for those spaces. I need to be sharing with people what I need for them to create those spaces for me. I don't know if you're like that, right? I am the natural interviewer. I always am asking people questions about themselves. They're giving me all this information about them. And then I'm so like about giving information about me. And I don't really offer a whole lot to get them to see who I really am and see where my head and my heart is. I might talk a lot about something maybe, and so they're like, oh yeah, Kenni, the one who's like really, really, funny, or she knows a lot about this topic. But I don't really talk a lot about myself. Like, it really took me a long time to even open up on this podcast space with you guys, even with the few viewers that we do have, because it is just not something that comes easily to me. I didn't have those representations of my mother, people in my family doing that as I was growing up. So anyway, so now I'm just trying to really be intentional about it. And, I don't want to just be that person that keeps someone around forever because they haven't done me wrong yet. Like, that's kind of how I navigated relationships in the past, is that this person hasn't done me wrong. And so I guess here we are. I mean, I'm telling you, romantic relationships, friendships, all of them. As long as this person hasn't done me dirty, like, this was okay. Like, I was strong enough to literally navigate everything else. I'm gonna get the job, I'm gonna get the car, I'm gonna get the house, I'm gonna figure everything out. Just don't do me dirty. Like, don't cause me any problems. And that was a very toxic way of thinking that led to a lot of toxic friendships and romantic relationships. So yeah, I've learned a lot over these last couple of years and being in therapy and just understanding, who I am and what it requires for me to build a bond with someone. And I am really starting to feel better about it. I think, for a long time I was starting to feel weird, like an alien, or just like someone who, just couldn't get it together. But now I'm starting to feel so much better about, being able to relate to other people and build real friendships that are beneficial to me, because I feel like I have a lot of friends. Like, it's definitely on two hands, the amount of close friends I have, and then actual friends is past that. But in terms of the relationships being what I truly need in life to navigate life in a healthy and wholesome way, I'm just starting to really navigate that a little bit better. And there have been some people who fell off, but again, still on two hands, the amount of people who I can say have really been incredible to me, for me. I'm learning how to create new friendships. I'm learning how to make those efforts and not feel weird about them. And I'm learning how to let things go. I'm learning just, that life is going to bring you what it's going to bring you. But also sometimes when you want something, it's okay to go out and search for it and use discernment and try to get it as well. And you have to use discernment about which relationships those are. Like, if you're going to be the person that goes out and finds you a man, like, if that's who you are, then that's great. But if you're not, that's okay too. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for my personal story, my situation. I hope there was something in there that you could take away, that helped you to just see that this stuff is not easy. And I definitely struggle a lot with understanding others and navigating relationships and not just writing people off right away. It has been a very pleasant experience, right? I realize that I have done the work, that I am strong, that I am capable, that I have discernment now. And so I don't have to have so many walls up, and I don't have to have so many get out of my life, like at the drop of a pen type of standards. But yeah, just creating healthy boundaries and leaning in with a heart of understanding is definitely my approach, and I'm loving it. It feels very safe, and it feels very free and explorative, and that's exactly where I want to be in my life. So anyway, I just wanted to leave you guys with a little takeaway for the entire show, which is that some people do wait forever or at least until ish hits the fan to try to understand the people in their lives. But by that time, it is too late, okay? And that is just not beneficial to you. Like, that's not even beneficial to you. Like, get to know the people in your life now. Don't just keep them around because you guys have things in common and because they haven't done you dirty yet. Like, don't just keep them around because they're your yes man and they make you feel good about yourself. Like, you need to understand who you have in your circle. You need to understand who you are, and that is absolutely going to help you to grow, and it's going to be beneficial for everybody involved. You have to prioritize understanding the other side. We talked about the importance of why that is from the business aspect, but it's absolutely important in all aspects, in all relationships. It's understanding the other side and what they need to feel prioritized. You need to be able to champion the core objectives of what that other side wants out of the relationship. So definitely do that. When the more you do it, whether it's work, whether it's friendships, you'll probably see yourself getting more promotions. Friends will reciprocate the way that you prioritize them with, treating you very similarly, and loved ones will feel seen and cared for. So I think that's why I am able to even express this with the amount of lightheartedness and joy that I am, because I'm really seeing that return. Like, I'm not doing it for that, but I'm recognizing that in me doing that, and because I'm using discernment and choosing people who I see are capable of returning it, like, I really am being filled with so much. Like, I'm being filled through these relationships in such a beautiful way. Like, my life feels so full and bright despite this breakup and everything else that's going on. So anyway, all right, you guys, that is it for episode 14. This was really fun. It was a really, really timely one. As I said, I really loved being able to open up to you guys on this one and just talk about everything that's going on, as well as just, my journey with relationships and understanding the people who I interact with on a regular basis. I hope that you guys will continue to listen. Stay tuned. As said earlier, we are going to do our scheduled live for Sunday at 7 p.m. on the Podbean hosting platform, which is our official hoster for this platform. And I am going to make sure that I drop a link somewhere available to you guys on our Instagram page. I don't know how to do that yet, so I have 6 days to figure that out. But yes, I'm really excited to try out this live episode thing. I feel like I can do it without too much problem, but we're just gonna have to see. We just gonna have to see. And anything else that's coming up, I will definitely, make sure to let you guys know. I think we're overdue for a recipe episode, but I'm just going to have to, if we don't do it, if I don't drop it in the live, then we're gonna have to do it after the lives later on. So sorry about that. But that will be coming at some point. So stay tuned for our recipes. If you are interested in checking out our recipes, you know what? I need to add that to the link tree. So I will add to the link tree a link to our whisk, which is just our recipe book, so that you guys can look and see some of the things that I've whipped up that I want to share with you guys, because I love cooking. So anyway, stay tuned for next week's live episode, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Podbean podcast hosting platform. And that's it, you guys. Make sure to follow us, like, share, and subscribe. I love you so much, and I will see you next week.